Hey folks, Mark Scroggins
Andrew Johnson here.
here with Love and Money in Texas. So today we're going to have a fun discussion about aliens of all different kinds. And so which kind of segues into something we were talking about. I understand the G20 just talked about something.
Yeah, so we'll start with
certain
illegal
that-
aliens.
There,
Right?
there we go.
Oh man, so the G20 did just talk about that it's time for a vaccine passport.
Right.
So what does that mean for us?
Yeah.
I think that there's been a kind of a surprisingly low amount of Americans who have opted in for vaccinations, and I understand that. There's certainly a fear that accompanies a vaccine that was developed with a rapid pace, but for me and for you, we both love to travel.
Yeah.
So have you gotten your vaccine yet or not?
Yeah.
Okay, same. So I in 6 years, did you get Pfizer, Moderna?
Pfizer.
So in 6 years, we can talk about our third appendage that might grow somewhere on our body.
Exactly.
You know, oh, you the Pfizer one. That's
Yeah,
great. So.
exactly.
But I think that it's definitely time for this. It's amazing in traveling to places like Mexico. They have such a bizarre system.
Yeah.
You know, it should be, and then you go there and you get a terrible rapid test, which is right 50% of the time. When I had COVID back in 2020, and I got it with like 3 other guys. We went into this restaurant and we for sure all got it together. So I talked to my buddy and said, hey, because I got tested positive for COVID, so you need to go get tested. I felt bad. When you got a rapid test, it was negative. But the doctor said, you have all the symptoms, you need to go get a PCR, which is the brain tickler.
Yep.
They send off for a
Yep.
3-day return, and what do you know, I have it. So
Yep.
Mexico, you just gotta go and get a negative test within 40 hours of returning to the country. What a stupid concept, because you're wrong half the time. So if it's in the genesis of controlling the disease, then you're not doing a very good job. But conversely, the Bahamas have said that if you have your vaccination card, you can prove that, then hey, welcome to the country. You don't need to do any of the pre-stuff. You don't need to get a special visa to enter the country, which is great.
Yeah, it's all interesting. So I mean, one thing. So I went diving in Cozumel the end of last year, and so you had to show a test that was negative, but they did have you're supposed to be masked up everywhere, and they're sitting there taking your temperature before you're walking in. But that's the extent of it. Half the people are walking around with the mask down like that, just like they do here, which is completely fucking worthless.
Yeah,
Excuse my French, but God
it
almighty.
defeats the whole purpose. And even the efficacy of masks is something that can obviously be argued and has been talked about by a lot of academics. But regardless, at least it provides some sort of, even if it's security theater, the ability that the flu has been completely non-existent in the past 18 months. I don't know if you saw that study, but
Yeah.
no one's getting flu. I have several docs that I work with that are ER doctors, and they had plenty of cases in 2019 of folks just coming to the ER with severe flu symptoms.
Right.
He said he hasn't seen a single flu case.
Interesting.
Which is fascinating.
So I have had one paralegal who had a child who had the flu, but that's the extent of where I've seen it. And
Well,
so
so in our Petri dishes.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that
Well,
kinda-
that's exactly right. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think we absolutely need that. I don't understand where some of these governors are coming out and saying we'll never agree to that. And it's like, why? I mean, so I think you can trace back the problem with the vaccine to the politicization of everything.
Everything.
So you had the Democrats who are now in power sitting there saying that they would never get a shot that was developed under Trump because of how everything was rushed. And then once they got into power, and it's the same process that's going on, now it's, hey, everybody needs to take it.
100 million
And so you
vaccines
can't-
in 100 days.
yeah, I mean, so you can't exactly expect after you've been, putting out all this negative bullshit going on that everybody's going to turn around. Now, I don't get why somebody wouldn't get it. I just don't understand that, but that's just me, okay? I don't fit well into either party. I think they've both been hijacked by the extremes. So, but I don't understand for the life of you why you wouldn't do that. So like the whole anti-vaxxer thing, I don't really get,
Don't get me started on that.
and so.
One of my least favorite action groups ever created. It's
Well,
just,
yeah.
but
And,
Look, I think there's always the paranoid people that are the deep state's controlling us. Bill Gates is going to put a microchip in our brain with the COVID vaccine, which was one of my favorites. That was hilarious.
I like that.
But
it makes me think. You remember the movie Signs?
Oh yeah.
You know, and he goes in and Phoenix, what's his name?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix and the kid are sitting there with the tinfoil on their head, and I'm like, that just makes me think of this whole conspiracy crowd. I can't believe what they're going to do to us.
I know.
It's like, Jesus, man, get your shit together.
Well, that's a perfect segue for our alien topic today. Talk about actual aliens. So this has been truly fascinating because the Pentagon has been releasing in pretty mass scale actual military sightings and encounters by aviators, by ships of UFOs.
Right.
And this has long corroborated the idea that there have been sightings that have been pushed under the rug.
Right.
And if we're talking about political ideology, I think aliens are a fascinating thing because Ronald Reagan, back when he was president, he was talking to the UN and said, like almost verbatim, that we need something to unify the world. To get past our petty regional and international differences.
Yeah.
America versus Russia, America versus China, the tribal issues that happen in various Middle Eastern countries, so on and so forth. If you had a unifying enemy of aliens, that would be the perfect catalyst to unite the world. If you could figure that out, I think that'd be incredible, but that's why they're using it. So there's this documentary, we love to talk about documentaries on this show apparently, but there's a documentary called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. And it's run by a PhD who kind of narrates this, and this is his topic. But he says that aliens are inherently exist and that they're friendly. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it, there's this concept called the Fermi paradox. Mm-hmm. The Fermi paradox simply states that the vastness of our universe, there are as many galaxies, so our planetary system, as there are grains of sand on this Earth. So think about how many galaxies that is. There's potentially more.
Right.
That's how vast this universe is. If there's that much vastness, there has to be at least 1% to 2% of these planets within these systems that are viable for life.
Sure.
So why have we never encountered another alien species?
Right.
Now that dives into a deeper philosophical question as to technology advancement. One of the concepts is we are one of the first intelligent civilizations, and no one has reached that point where they can intertravel. But I don't necessarily agree with that because as conspiracy theories they might be, there actually are some big data points to suggest that it's impossible for these primitive civilizations to create some of the archaeological developments that they made without intrinsic help from another species. So I digress a bit to the point where we're going to find out a lot here in the next year because the Pentagon, I think in June, is releasing a pretty robust report on everything they know about aliens. So I'm excited for that. So let's see what we have. What do you think is likely that we see a Hollywood-esque vibe of call it the Mars attack or something like that that's going to come in there to destroy us, or are you going to see a species that wants to promote and advance our civilization as well?
So that I think is the area of seeing what has actually been out there. I think much like what you were saying about with the vastness of just our solar system, not to mention what all the distant galaxies and everything that's out there. It doesn't make any sense to me that there's not other intelligent life out there. Now, it very likely is not intelligent life like what we expect. It makes me think, what were we called? Alien Nation. Makes me kind of wonder if we're going to have. By the way, if y'all haven't seen that, go watch Alien Nation. That's kind of fun. It means apparently I'm going to need to hire another lawyer that is a newcomer, as they referred to the aliens. It's a whole different marketing deal, Andrew, that I got to get on board here.
First interspecies attorney.
Hey, that's right. We got to do something.
It's really tough when you create a whole new subspecies and figuring out custody with that case.
That's going to be interesting.
That's going to be fascinating.
It's going to be interesting. Men
in Black.
Yeah, exactly. Men in Black.
So, I firmly believe that you will find that there is intelligent life out there. Do I, what level of contact has been made? I have no idea. I mean, you can also wonder about, looking back at the advancements in mathematics and other areas from ancient Greece and stuff with the Egyptians and other societies prior to both of those or contemporaneous to those, and then all of the information that was lost through the quote unquote dark ages.
Fire at Alexandria.
Yeah. Well, and some of the stuff that was done, frankly, by the Roman Catholic Church, that was just known as the church back then. It makes you wonder where we would be from a technology standpoint, or makes me wonder where we would be from a technology standpoint if all of that had not been lost. So where would we be? I don't know. Now, does that mean that it was that some of it was obtained through these experience with different life that was much more advanced? I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily have an issue with believing that. It's like, what is it? The lines of Nazca in South America, in Peru, where they've got lines that you can't.
Yes,
you can't see if you're standing there, but if you can see it from a plane, or if you had a drone that was up there. And so all of these perfectly designed things that the only way you can see it is from a substantially elevated situation. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Now, primitive tools they couldn't have constructed something with.
Exactly. So now,
lines.
What's that?
Nazca lines.
Nazca lines. Okay, so I was on the right track there. But it also, brings to mind all the crop circles that we heard about, and so you find out about different people that were creating this and the shit they were doing, like they had a 2x4 strapped to shoes and a string. We're going in circles to make that stuff happen. So I don't know. Who knows? There was a recent movie, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like some of the advancements with cell phone technology and some of the others, and that was where the money the ideas came from these aliens that were living among us.
Sure.
So who knows? But I do think it will be interesting because of the way that it was portrayed of, if they're not dangerous, at the very least, then this is bullshit. It doesn't really exist. And you, sir, or you, ma'am, are crazy for even bringing it up. Who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes?
Call me crazy, Mark? Is that what it boils down to? No,
Yeah.
That's what it is. But I think that the thing that's also been brought about is that if the Pentagon might be releasing imagery of things they don't know, which might not be aliens, but actually foreign military powers who develop technology that is more advanced than ours, which is actually a very scary thing to think about. We're compromised on a technological scale. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to, because I think that this economy is really waiting for some big thing to screw it up. And I think the current administration is doing a wonderful job of trying to create, in my opinion, a recession at some point in time because of the changes in tax code.
Yeah.
They're making it impossible if you are a high income earner to make any money with the proposed changes. Plus, the Fed has to start raising rates next year. They've signaled that already to cull inflation. So how long does this go if there's a big report that doesn't get swept under the rug from the Pentagon that there's actually been alien interaction with our planet? What's that going to do to the U.S. economy? What's that going to do to people's everyday lives? Are they going to be fearful of that? Are they going to be excited? Because I believe that there is an alien species out there that they would be so advanced in technology that they'd be able to wipe us out in the blink of an eye. They probably have planet-destroying systems, because if they can travel between solar systems, they should have no problem in just having an advanced weapon that can absolutely obliterate us. So we have all the benefit in the world to make nice with these things versus not.
Well, I would definitely tend to agree with that. And the economy is taxes on individuals, on high net worth folks, I think are kind of ridiculous in trying to sink the rich and all that. The bigger one that scares me are raising the taxes on businesses, because you're already seeing, GM is going to go and open a plant in Mexico that they had just brought back on shore. So all this offshoring problem that had kind of had started going away, at least under the previous administration. You had repatriation of monies and jobs and things like that. immediately are going to start going overseas again.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
why would you not? That's just capitalism as pure.
yeah, exactly. Because they, as most people, well, I would hope most people realize, the corporation has a duty to its shareholders. It doesn't have a duty to you because it's here in the U.S. But there are things that a government can do to sweeten the pot to make sure that they are here and they are creating more jobs in the U.S. And that isn't going to happen under this business climate that is being permeated by the left on certain things, and that's a shame. I think most of it's like what we were talking about just a little bit ago. The vast majority, based on all the studies that have been done, the vast majority of American voters don't really fit within either political party. They are Republican moderates or they're Democratic moderates. And so I've never seen a situation that is so ripe for a third party to just get the freaking extremists the hell out.
I don't know about your discourse of daily interactions with newer people, but it is rare for me to encounter an extremist.
Yeah.
I think that you know when you find them, they let you know. But the majority of my friends, and I have a vast respect for people on either side of the party. I understand the viewpoints. I think it's very challenging, but I feel bad for most of us because I think you and I both fall on moderate lines where it's tough because we want to be able to relate and unify, but we can't do that under the two-party system. That's why I think, as you mentioned before, a three-party system would greatly benefit this country, but the ironic part would be that third party would take over everything. It'd probably become a uniparty system because the extremists would be pigeonholed into their boxes, and then everyone else would, congregate in the normal platform, I guess you could say.
But then would you end up with that breakup into more parties? So you end up with something like what you see in Europe.
This is the classic parable of the packing the court issue.
Yeah.
You can, if you keep adding and adding, the other parties and respond, and it's like mutually assured destruction of order. So that's tough. Going back to our alien topic again, let's talk about a couple of things that revolve around our good friend Elon Musk, who I don't know at all, but he seems like he's somebody that I've gotten to know through a lot of his attention recently.
Right.
What do you think about the discourse of his plans with SpaceX and getting us to Mars here in a few years? Do you think that's like a viable option?
I would love to believe that it is. But I don't know that. It doesn't seem to me that the technology is there yet for just the length of the trip. What are the logistics on provisioning that you would have to do, which would seem incredibly difficult, not to mention what the amount of money that would have to be put into this. Now, I expect that something like that will absolutely happen in the relatively near future. I don't think it's within the next couple of years. I think the technology has to improve so that the length of trip, is there, when you hear about people talking about like the old series Star Trek and how some of that is actually close to things that can be done. And one of the things, as I understand it, there is physics theory on the bending, the bending of the universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where exactly. And so, at least there's mathematical theory that says that this exists. And so if it does, the question is, how do we figure that out to make, create a situation where travel can take place that way, and travel that can take place where life can be sustained in the process. So that's an interesting deal. I fully expect we will get there, but like I said, I don't see it in 2 years. But I'm just a lawyer, man. I'm not a science guy.
Yeah, right. I think the last thing I want to share about this, which is two things. Have you heard about the twin study?
No.
So there were astronauts that were twins that set up, and just understanding the biological effects of space.
Right.
Space blindness being a real big issue. Yeah. So I think until we can create artificial gravity, it's going to be nearly impossible, or else we're going to have to basically breed a portion of species of humans that are like literally from space. There's really no other way to do it. You have to adapt. This will be evolutionary theory. So you're right. I think we're too old to explore the world and too young to explore space.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember. I can see the face of the guys. I mean, they're out of Arizona. The one was married to the senator person in the House who was shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things is that atrophy, muscle atrophy. So that's where, they've got the little bike up there that you see them riding.
Yeah.
That's not so much for them to, keep the pounds off while they're up there. That's to make sure that they can maintain some muscle mass, because the atrophy of a no gravity environment. So you're dead on with that. I mean, how can you have someone that then just wastes away to nothing?
Well, yeah,
they're
that's
just,
what I mean. You're quite literally. I think it's your retina starts just to detach
Right.
from your eye because of your inability to have the gravity to keep
No
the
pressure.
fluids going. Exactly.
Yeah.
So another big thing about space travel that I think is a fascinating. There's actually a company in Arizona that's tackling this, and I got to be careful what I say because I'm under NDA for some of their. We evaluated this as a private equity investment, but. To say what's already out there on their website, they have created it's not hydroponic, but it's a conveyor belt plant growing system that uses 98% less water than a conventional growing field, yields crops with 60% faster, and it takes a pretty marginal amount of space. So they use, on a human planetary scale, this is a solution that's going to be massive, because Green Planet Group is the name of the company, and they have a patented portfolio of about 10 patents, including the tray that these plants grow on. So the company itself actually uses a barley seed right now for cattle consumption.
Okay.
And they're able to grow a highly nutritious, it's about 1/3 more protein rich and nutrient rich barley plant that goes from germination to highest point of nutritional efficacy in 10 days. And it uses gravity to move these trays as the plant grows and takes on water. And when it gets to the end, it has a robot arm that dumps out the plants, which have no soil in them. So roots and plants, all there is. The cows eat 100% of it, and then it comes back and it gets replanted again. So it's a fascinating company, and they're working on a program that I can't talk too much about, but they're working on trying to develop a miniaturized system for space.
Interesting.
And that will allow, what's really cool is they have one of their components, which is, once again, not sharing too much, but one of their components has the ability to reclaim water for the process to be used again.
So how would that, though, even with that system, how does that grow in a no gravity?
All I can tell you is that they actually it's not patented yet, so I can't speak about it.
Gotcha.
But they have a solution for it. And it's
Okay.
really, really, really smart.
Okay.
So this is a company that I've been following closely. They're actually traded publicly. They're in a reverse merger. It's a absolute penny stock right now, but the reason it is that they haven't launched yet. So they're going to market pretty soon here, and when they do, I think it's going to be a very profitable stock over time. This is obviously my point in time to tell you that I am not making a recommendation for your personal portfolio. Please don't have anything zero risk. But this is something that I personally looking at that I have a lot of interest in. That's one of those things where of course it's risky because any penny stock has its company risk, but a lot of these penny stocks that are out there, if we care to jump into this topic for 2 seconds, are complete gambling stocks, right? And people don't know that they're real companies or not.
Yeah.
We took the time to go out and look at this business. They have patents, they have a prototype, and I'm happy to show you some of these pictures offline, but it's really fascinating what they've done. So
sounds like it.
Absolutely. So the last alien topic that I want to talk about, because I'm trying to just milk this theme for all it's worth, is the illegal immigration uptick that we've seen. I mean, illegal aliens are really, the border crisis is real, and it's going to cause it's a really polarizing topic. I think you and I both vow to not talk about anything politically, and I don't think we are here, but it's just, I'm curious to see why there's been such an uptick in this immigration inflow, It has to be something to do with the positioning of Washington, because obviously Trump was like, build the wall, and Biden was like, let's not build the wall. So what do you think the general impact of that is going to be on our country over the next couple of years?
That is a really, really good question. They need to find a solution, and once again, the problem is that everything is so freaking politicized. Everybody just wants to point fingers instead of trying to find a solution. And I don't know what the solution is. You know, I mean, I understand, despite all the people that are haters of this country and apologists, you know, for everything. And the U.S. definitely has its warts. There's no question. You know, there have been, all you have to do is look back over the history, and there have been some really bad treatments of,
Sure.
you know, indigenous populations as well as foreign policy.
Eugenics.
I mean, just all kinds of shit. But there's a reason that there is an illegal immigration problem, and it's because you have people that come here and live the American dream. I can tell you, I met with people the other day that unfortunately would be getting a divorce, but you know, both immigrants that, you know, have made an ungodly amount of money with what they've done. So there's a reason that people still want to get over here, because they believe that the dream is alive and that the dream can happen. And guess what? It does. You know, I see that every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I pinch myself every day when I wake up and, you know, can't believe the life that I'm living. I mean, it's amazing. This wouldn't have happened anywhere else. So that's a problem. How do you deal with it? I don't have an answer for that, unless you are going to, you know, I think you have to have a true immigration policy, and you can't reward people for, oh, well, you've been over here a specific amount of time, now it's okay, don't worry about it, kind of thing. I do believe that, you know, the dreamer situation is something that is a different situation. I mean, if you were brought over here, you know, as a kid and you grew up here, you ought to be able to have a pathway to citizenship. The question is, what exactly does it look like? You know, I think it ought to be relatively speedy, but that's just me, you know, and I'm not running for office. But right now, there's got to be a solution, and it can't be, you know, you have lots of people that believe that, you know, the reason that the Democratic Party wants the influx of illegal aliens is to create a voter base, you know. And, you know, is that true? Isn't that true? Well, I've got my personal beliefs about it, but, you know, that's not really important here. The question is, how do you deal with it? You know, and I don't know.